Maria Johnson moved quietly down the long hospital corridor. The lights were dim, and the soft hum of machines filled the air. She carried a stack of files in her arms and hoped she would finish her work soon. Tonight was her last shift of the SE. Weak, and she felt both tired and alert. As a volunteer, she checked patient records, sorted paperwork, and made sure every detail was right. She liked helping people, even in small ways. Tonight, however, she sensed something was not quite right. In the records room, Maria set her files on a metal table. She flipped through them one by one. Each file had a patient's name, photo, and notes from doctors or nurses. She looked for errors or missing information. Many files were routine. It's a broken arm here, a mild fever there. But one file caught her eye. The name read Cynthia Ross, and beside it, in bold red letters, was the word deceased. A chill ran through Maria's body. She pulled Cynthia's file toward her and stared at the photo. The picture was grainy and showed a woman wrapped in bandages. The face was half hidden, but the shape of the eyes and the curve of the lips looked familiar. Maria had helped care for that same woman just days ago after a car accident. She remembered Cynthia's soft voice and the way she clutched her bracelet when she felt pain. The thought that this woman could be listed as dead made Maria's heart pound. Maria's mind raced. Had she made a mistake? She closed her eyes and tried to see the memory clearly. She could almost hear Cynthia whispering, "Thank you for being here." The memory felt real. How could the hospital record say Cynthia had died? Maria tried to calm herself. She knew mistakes could happen, but this felt wrong. She stood up and glanced around. The hallway was empty, and the night nurse's station was dark. Maria knew she had to act. Meanwhile, across town in a high-rise office wrapped in glass, Andrew Ross reviewed the final guest list for his wife's memorial gala. He was a billionaire, a man used to control and power. Tonight was meant to honor his wife's memory, to show the world how much she meant to him. Yet Andrew felt hollow. He sat alone at a large mahogany table, flipping through invitations. His tie loose around his neck, he found no comfort in the preparations. Every detail reminded him of loss. His assistant, Claire, knocked softly and entered with 2 glasses of water. "Should rest, Mr. Ross," she said gently. Andrew took a glass without looking up. He knew she meant well, but he could not stop. The gala was tomorrow night. He needed to be ready. He needed to show strength. Yet inside, he felt anything but strong. He looked at a framed photo on the table, his wife smiling in a garden. He closed his eyes and sighed. Back at the hospital, Maria grabbed her coat and hurried to the nurse's station. She needed to speak with someone in charge. She found Nurse Patel, a kind woman with a calm voice, still finishing her notes. Maria showed her the file. Nurse Patel frowned, touched the screen, and called up Cynthia's records on a computer. "This says she passed away yesterday," Patel said softly, "but she was in surgery 2 days ago. I remember it well." They exchanged worried looks. Maria felt a surge of courage. "I think someone made a mistake," she said. Nurse Patel nodded. "Let me see if I can find more." She typed quickly, opening other files. Cynthia's treatment notes, her vital signs chart, all showed signs of life. There was no final report from the coroner. Maria's hands trembled. Something did not add up. Nurse Patel closed the record and looked at Maria. "This is serious. You did the right thing by bringing it to me." Late that night, Maria could not sleep. She lay in her small apartment thinking of Cynthia's gentle face. She feared for the woman's safety. What if someone had covered up her recovery? The thought made Maria's stomach twist. She knew she had to tell Cynthia's husband, Andrew Ross, directly. But Andrew was a private man, surrounded by security and staff. How could she reach him? Maria decided she had one chance to go to the memorial site and deliver her warning in person. The next evening, the grand ballroom at the Ross estate glittered with lights. Guests in fine clothes chatted in clusters, sipping champagne. Musicians played soft tunes in the corner. Portraits of Cynthia hung on the walls. Each image showed her kindness and grace. Andrew stood near the stage, greeting old friends and business partners. He smiled and shook hands, but his eyes looked distant. He spoke little, nodding politely as people offered their condolences. Maria arrived at the entrance, clutching her coat tightly. She wore a simple dress and flats, her hair tied back. A guard stopped her and asked for an invitation. Maria's heart raced. "I'm not a guest," she said quietly. "But I must see Mr. Ross. It is very important." The guard hesitated, then called his supervisor. Maria watched the line of guests, feeling out of place among the wealthy crowd. She prayed for a chance. After a few tense minutes, the supervisor waved her through. Maria stepped inside, feeling every eye on her. She walked past tables of crystal glasses and flower arrangements. She approached the stage where Andrew stood, alone, moments before being introduced. Maria took a deep breath. She could see the sadness in his posture. She folded a small piece of paper, wrote 3 words in bold letters, "Your wife is alive," and tucked it into an envelope. Maria stepped forward and waited. The host cleared his throat and welcomed everyone. Maria edged closer to Andrew, and, when the audience quieted, reached out. "Mr. Ross," she called softly. People turned, surprised by the interruption. Andrew looked at her, confusion and concern in his eyes. Maria held out the envelope. "Please," she said, her voice shaking open this. The room fell silent. Andrew took the envelope and opened it with slow, deliberate movements. He read the words and froze. His face turned pale. For a moment, no one moved. Then Andrew's fist hit the stage wall, making a loud crack that echoed in the hall. Gasps filled the air. Andrew looked at Maria with eyes wide and intense. "Explain," he said, his voice low and steady. Maria swallowed hard. She knew her life could change in an instant, but she also knew she had to tell the truth. The crowd watched in stunned silence as Andrew nodded to his assistant. His face was set, determined. He tucked the note into his pocket and turned back to Maria. "Tell me everything you know," he said. Maria felt a mix of fear and relief. She had no idea what would happen next, but she knew one thing for sure. Her warning had been heard. The first step was done. Now the real search for the truth would begin. Andrew Ross stood in the wide lobby of his penthouse headquarters as Maria Johnson described what she had seen. He listened with a stern face, his thoughts racing. His assistant Claire had quickly gathered a small team of private investigators, named Sam Ellis and Dr. Patel, the kind nurse from the hospital. They all waited for Maria to tell them everything she knew. Maria held onto her coat tightly. Her heart pounded, but she spoke clearly. "I saw the file saying Cynthia was dead, but I treated her after her crash. I know she was alive then." She paused to catch her breath. "The records don't match. If someone marked her dead, they hid her away." Andrew nodded and motioned for Sam to begin his work. That afternoon, Andrew's office buzzed with quiet energy. Sam set up a board to pin pictures and notes. There was a photo of Cynthia in a hospital gown, another of her bracelet on Maria's wrist, and a copy of the note Maria had handed to Andrew. Claire brought coffee for everyone. Maria sat beside Sam, pointing to the dates on the files. "See here," she said. "She went into surgery on June 30th. Her vitals were good, and nothing." Sam moved his pen along the timeline. "Strange," he muttered. Andrew leaned forward. "Find out who signed her death certificate," he ordered. "And why." While the team worked, Maria returned to the hospital under Sam's guidance. They moved quietly at night, so as not to alert anyone. Dr. Patel met them at the parking lot. She carried a hospital key card. "This wing is for VIP patients," she whispered, leading them through dim hallways. Machines beeped softly in empty rooms. They reached a locked door marked Records Archive. Patel swiped her card and the door clicked open. Inside, rows of metal shelves held folders and boxes. Sam scanned the shelves with a small flashlight. He found the box labeled Cynthia Ross VIP. He pulled it down and opened it carefully. "Here," he said, showing them a stack of papers. Maria flipped through them. There were test results, doctor notes, and at the end, a death certificate signed by Dr. Caldwell. Maria's eyes widened. "He was the surgeon who operated on her," she whispered. Sam took a photo with his phone. "We have proof someone entered this." He slipped the papers back and closed the box. Back at the penthouse, Sam showed Andrew the photos. Dr. Caldwell signed this before the funeral, Sam said. Andrew frowned. Get a background on Caldwell, he said. Find out his movements. After the surgery, he turned to Maria. Thank you for your help. You're braver than you know. Maria shook her head. I just wanted to help. Andrew nodded, his face softening for a moment. As night fell, the team set up surveillance. On Dr. Caldwell's clinic, a sleek black car parked across the street. Claire and Sam sat inside, cameras ready. Maria stayed in Andrew's office, watching a live feed on the monitor. The clock struck 10. A light flicked on in the clinic. Dr. Caldwell stepped out, carrying a small bag. He looked around, noticed the car, and paused. He seemed uneasy. Dr. Caldwell walked quickly toward a side door. Some whispered into his radio. He's moving. Claire zoomed the camera in. Caldwell disappeared through the door. A moment later, he reappeared, this time with 2 guards in dark suits. They led him toward a black van parked in a back alley. The guards helped him into the van, and it drove off. That's him, Claire said. Where to? Sam asked. We'll follow, Claire said, pressing on the gas. The van moved through quiet streets until it reached a tall fence with barbed wire above. An unmarked gate slid open. The van drove in and closed the gate behind it. Claire parked a block away. Sam and Claire watched as 2 guards opened the van and helped Caldwell out. He carried the same bag as before. The guards led him inside a pale gray building. No windows marked the walls. That's our place, Sam said. Everyone, get ready. They planned to investigate at dawn. Claire drove Maria back to her apartment so she could rest. Maria lay on her sofa, stomach twisting with nervousness. She felt part of something big, something that could change many lives. She thought of Cynthia's warm smile and prayed they would find her soon. At first light, Andrew accompanied Sam and Claire to the hospital's side entrance. Maria arrived separately, wearing plain clothes and carrying her ID. They met in a small courtyard near the staff parking lot. Sam pointed to a map on his phone. The rehab center is here, he said, marking a spot 5 miles from the city. It was called Whispering Pines Recovery. The name sounded peaceful, but Sam's gut told him it hid something dark. Claire drove the SUV past tree-lined streets until they reached a long driveway leading to the center. Tall pines stood in rows. The building looked like a large house painted pale blue. A small sign read Private Wellness. No one stood at the entrance. Sam parked behind a bush. We go in quick, he said. Maria, Alexis, and Andrew climbed out quietly. They moved along the wall, Alex cutting the lock on a side window with a small tool. The latch clicked open. Sam squeezed inside first, followed by Claire and Maria. Andrew hesitated for a moment, then slipped in after them. Inside, the hallway smelled of bleach and lavender. Doors on each side had nameplates. Sam tiptoed down the hall, whispering, We want patient logs. They should list Cynthia's alias. At the end of the corridor, he found a gray door marked Records. He tried the handle. Locked. Claire offered a small device and picked the lock in seconds. The door swung open. Rows of files lined the shelves. Claire read the labels aloud. Patient 1, Patient 2. Maria edged closer until she saw a folder labeled ER number 457. She pulled it out. On the front, in neat handwriting, was the name Lisa Howard. Maria's breath caught. She recognized the note, Cynthia Ross, scribbled underneath. Inside the folder were photos of Cynthia's bracelet, copies of her scan results, and a card with her nickname Synth. The file proved that Cynthia was kept here under a false name. Maria scanned the room. A guard paced outside the windows. Looking bored, she knew they had little time. Sam photographed every page. Claire packed the files in a bag. Andrew touched Maria's shoulder softly. Good work, he whispered. The team slipped out the same way, closing the window behind them. They hurried back to the SUV and sped away before the guard realized the files were missing. Back at the penthouse, Andrew spread the new documents on his desk. Maria and Sam stood beside him as Claire poured tea. The paper trail was clear. Cynthia had been taken here shortly after her surgery. Dr. Caldwell had arranged it, but why? Andrew's brow furrowed. Someone powerful must want her out of the way. He tapped a photo of Victor Lang, a rival businessman with a taste for dirty deals. Lang would benefit if Cynthia died. He'd own half my shares. Maria gasped. You think he did this? Andrew nodded quietly. He knew Victor was ruthless, but had never imagined him doing something so cruel. That evening Andrew called. A small press conference. He spoke calmly, but firmly. Today I reveal evidence that my wife is alive and has been held under a false identity. We have reason to believe a conspiracy led by Victor Lang and his associates is responsible. This is not only a personal matter, it is a crime against a human being. Cameras flashed. Reporters buzzed with questions. Maria stood behind Andrew. Feeling both proud and frightened, she had changed the course of a billionaire's life and exposed a criminal plot. After the conference, Andrew turned to Maria. I could not have done this without you. Maria shook her head. I just did what felt right. Andrew smiled softly. You've helped me find hope again. Maria looked at him and thought of Cynthia, still hidden somewhere. The investigation had taken them far, but the mission was not over. They had proof and names, but they needed Cynthia herself. Andrew put a hand on Maria's shoulder. Tomorrow we find her and bring her home. Maria nodded, determined. The next step would be the hardest, but together they would see it through. 33. Maria could hardly rest that night. Her mind replayed every scene at Whispering Pines recovery. She lay on her bed in her small apartment, watching ceiling cracks in the dim light. She felt a mix of fear and hope. Fear, because they had risked so much, and hope because the files had proof that Cynthia was alive. She knew the next steps would be even harder. Before dawn, Maria prepared for the day. She chose a simple blouse and jeans. She packed a small bag with water, snacks, and the copies of files Sam had photographed. She checked her phone. Andrew had sent a message. Meet at my office in 1 hour. Maria felt her heart jump. She caught a quick bus to the city center. Her mind focused on the task ahead. Andrew's office looked calm when Maria arrived. The sun shone through tall windows. Claire sat at a conference table, pouring coffee for everyone. Sam set down a folder full of documents. Andrew stood by the window, looking out at the city skyline. When Maria walked in, he turned and offered her a warm smile. It was the first time she had seen him genuinely hopeful. They all sat, opened the meeting. We know Dr. Caldwell moved Cynthia to Whispering Pines. We found her records under the name Lisa Howard. We have the photos, the logs, and the death certificate signed by Caldwell. He placed each item on the table, and Maria touched them. Feeling their weight, Claire passed around copies. Andrew studied them with a steady gaze. Who can testify, he asked. We need witnesses to make this stick, Maria spoke up. Dr. Patel and I can testify about Cynthia's vitals after surgery. We saw her awake and responsive. Patel's voice came from the corner. She stood quietly, straight as a soldier. It's true. I was on duty that night. I remember her breathing steadily. No one told me she died. Andrew nodded. Good. I'll use your statements. Sam continued. Next, we have Victor Lang. He benefits if Cynthia is declared dead. His lawyers stand to gain half of your company. We need proof he knew. Andrew's expression darkened. He looked tired, but determined. Find any link between Victor and Caldwell. Emails, phone calls, money transfers, anything. Sam clicked his pen. I'll get on it. Andrew stood and walked to the window again. I will call Victor today. Face to face. He turned to Maria. I know this is risky. He's powerful. Maria met his eyes. He's a criminal, she said softly. He sold hope for money. You can stop him. Andrew's jaw clenched. Let's do this. At midday, Andrew drove to Victor's office in the business district. The building was modern glass, tall and impersonal. Andrew's car pulled up curbside, saw Victor's black SUV waiting. 2 burly men opened the door for Victor. Victor stepped out, dressed in a sharp suit. His hair was slick and his eyes cold. Andrew felt a chill, but kept his steps calm. Andrew followed Victor into the lobby. The receptionist smiled and showed him to a private meeting room. It was large, with a long table and chairs. Andrew sat at one end. Victor entered seconds later, without a guard. He nodded politely. "Andrew," he said. His voice was smooth. "I heard you wanted to see me." He sounded friendly, but Andrew sensed danger. Victor sat across. A tray of water glasses stood at the center. They both grabbed one. Andrew set down his glass first. "Victor, I know you arranged my wife's death in the records," he said, his voice quiet but firm. Victor's eyes flickered. He placed his glass on the table. "That's a serious claim," he replied, voice measured. "What proof do you have?" Andrew opened a folder. He slid Dr. Caldwell's death certificate across the table. "This certificate is false," he said. "I have Nurse Patel's statement. I have the Whispering Pines files. I have photos of my wife alive under a fake name." Victor leaned back. "Is that so?" He touched the certificate. Andrew watched Victor's reaction closely. Victor smiled thinly. "You're upset, Andrew, but you must understand how the hospital works. Doctors sometimes move patients for privacy or safety." Andrew shook his head. "My wife did not choose this. She was hidden. I want her back safe." Victor's calm smile vanished. "If you publicize this, I'll lose a lot. You'll lose more than me." He stood. "Think carefully." Andrew remained seated, but held Victor's gaze. "I will go public," he said. "You'll face charges for kidnapping, conspiracy, fraud. My proof is solid." Victor paused. He looked at Andrew, eyes narrowing. Then he laughed quietly. "Very well, proceed." He turned and walked out without another word. Andrew pressed the call button. Claire answered on speaker. "Get my lawyer and prepare for a press release," he said. "Sam, I need every detail on Caldwell's finances." "Wire transfers from Lang," Sam replied. "I'm on it." Andrew hung up and exhaled slowly. He felt the weight of the moment, but also relief. Victor had backed down, at least for now. Back at the penthouse, the team gathered again. Papers lay across the table, like a battlefield map. Andrew addressed them all. Victor didn't deny it. "He waited until he saw our proof. Now we push forward." Maria felt a spark of confidence. For the first time, she saw Andrew's resolve like steel. They spent the afternoon preparing. Claire drafted the press statement. It began, "Today, Andrew Ross reveals the truth about his wife's disappearance. We have evidence of a conspiracy." Maria read it and felt proud. The words were clear and firm. They would change the story. That evening, a press conference was set in the libraries of Ross Tower. Reporters filled seats. Andrew stood at the podium, Maria and Patel beside him. The cameras rolled. Andrew spoke with calm strength. He showed the death certificate, the Whispering Pines files, and the testimony. He named Victor Lang as the mastermind. He asked for any witnesses to come forward. Reporters shouted questions. Victor texted back a challenge. "Prove it or retract." The world watched. Maria stood behind Andrew, feeling both small and brave. She had gone from volunteer to key witness in a billionaire's fight. She scanned the crowd, seeing familiar faces from the hospital and new ones from the press. After the conference, the team retreated to a back room. Andrew's lawyer sent urgent messages. Police were notified. Victor's offices were searched. Maria returned home that night, exhausted. She fell asleep almost instantly. The next morning, news alerts buzzed on her phone. Headlines read, "Billionaires. Wife found a live conspiracy exposed. Victor Lang under investigation." Maria read each story, her chest swelling with relief. She had helped save a life. She had witnessed justice. But amid the relief, Maria felt unease. Cynthia was still not home. The law needed to act quickly. She packed her things and headed to Andrew's office once more. When she arrived, Andrew greeted her with gratitude. "We're close," he said. "Police have a warrant for Dr. Caldwell's arrest. They'll raid Whispering Pines today." Maria nodded. "I'll go with you," Andrew smiled. "Thank you." Together, they prepared for the final push. Behind them lay proof, voices, and courage. Ahead lay rescue, reunion, and the end of a dark secret. Maria felt her heart beat with hope and determination. They would find Cynthia. And when they did, nothing would ever be the same again. Andrew Ross felt a tight knot in his chest as he stood before the tall gates of Whispering Pines Recovery. The sky was gray, and the pines loomed over the driveway like silent guards. He glanced at Maria Johnson standing beside him. Her face was calm, but he saw the same fierce hope in her eyes that had driven her to warn him weeks ago. Behind them, Sam Ellis, the private investigator, checked the warrant in his hand. Claire and Dr. Patel stood close by, ready to help. Andrew took a deep breath and nodded. They had waited for the police to prepare. Officers in ordinary clothes mixed with uniformed personnel. A plain SUV with tinted windows rolled up. Detective Morales stepped out. He was a tall man with a steady voice and kind eyes. "Mr. Ross," he said quietly, "we're ready." Andrew gave a small nod. "Let's go in." They walked through the gate together. The pines whispered in the wind. Andrew felt his heart pound as they neared the front door. Morales held up his badge and the warrant, pressed a button on his radio. Moments later, a team moved to the side doors. Another group headed to the back. Maria followed Andrew into the reception area. She recognized the pale blue wall and the wooden desk where she and Sam had broken in before. Inside, the center was eerily quiet. The lamps glowed softly, but no one waited in the lobby. Morales motioned for them to spread out. "Search every room," he said. "Look for hostages and evidence." Maria watched as officers rose to the task. She felt a tremor in her legs but kept walking. She carried the folder of files Sam had gathered, the proof that Cynthia Ross was inside. In the hallway, Morales pointed to a door with no label. It was made of solid metal. "This is the secure wing," he said. "We believe that's where they kept Mrs. Ross." Andrew stepped forward. "Open it," an officer in plain clothes rammed the door latch with a tool. It clicked. The door swung open on soft hinges. Inside was a small room with no windows. A single bed stood against the far wall, its sheets neatly folded. A chair faced a small table. On the table was a glass of water and a box of tissues. Andrew's breath caught. He saw no one at first. He scanned the floor and then heard a soft sound, quiet cough. Andrew moved toward the bed. On it lay a woman wrapped in a light blanket. Her hair was loose around her shoulders. She looked pale and weak. Andrew's heart raced. He knelt by her side. "Cynthia," he whispered. Her eyes fluttered open. For a moment she stared at him in confusion. Then recognition swept across her face. "Andrew," she said, voice faint, but full of relief. Tears filled Andrew's eyes. He reached out and gently took her hand. "I thought I lost you," he said. His voice trembled. Cynthia tried to sit up, but her strength was gone. Andrew helped her up and smiled at her. "It's okay now," he said softly. "You're safe." Tears rolled down Cynthia's cheeks. For the first time in weeks, she let herself cry. Behind them, Maria watched in awe. She felt a warm relief bloom in her chest. All the danger and fear of the past days faded away. Cynthia was alive, and with Andrew again. Maria wiped a tear from her eye. Detective Morales cleared his throat. "We'll need your statements, Mrs. Ross," he said kindly. Cynthia looked at Morales and nodded. "I remember nothing after surgery," she said. "But I know I'm alive because of a kind volunteer." She glanced at Maria and smiled weakly. The officers began to escort them out. Andrew stayed by. Cynthia sighed. He bent down and whispered, "We'll explain everything soon." Cynthia rested her head on his shoulder. Outside, the other rooms were searched. Officers found locked doors and cages empty of people, but full of files and evidence. Sam stood in one room holding a recorder. "Looks like they planned to hide her here for months," he said, voice low. Claire and Dr. Patel examined charts on the walls that showed schedules and names crossed out. Andrew led Cynthia outside. Into the fresh air, the wind blew cool across the clearing. He held her tightly. Maria joined them. Andrew nodded to her. "Thank you," he said softly. "You saved her." Maria shook her head. "We all did it together," she said. Cynthia looked at Maria with tearful eyes. I owe you my life, she said. Maria felt a lump in her throat. You don't owe me anything, she said. I only did what was right. Detective Morales approached. We've detained Dr. Caldwell and several staff members, he said. They're on their way to be questioned. Andrew exhaled slowly. Good, he said. And Victor Lang? Morales shook his head. He's being held on charges of conspiracy and fraud. We're preparing charges for kidnapping. Andrew nodded. Thank you, Detective. As they walked back to the SUV, Andrew supported Cynthia's arm. She leaned on him, still weak but smiling. Maria and the team followed. The sky had turned brighter as the clouds broke. Sunlight filtered through the pines, casting long shadows across the driveway. Andrew paused and looked around. This place, he said softly. It stole weeks of her life. He closed his eyes. But now she's home. Back at the penthouse, Cynthia rested in a quiet room. Soft pillows and warm blankets surrounded her. A vase of fresh flowers sat on a side table. Andrew sat beside her bed holding her hand. Drink this, he said, handing her a glass of juice. She took a small sip. He watched her with gentle eyes. You're safe now, he said again. In the next room, Maria, Sam, Claire, and Dr. Patel gathered. They sat on a soft couch and drank tea. The mood was lighter but still serious. Dr. Patel spoke first. Cynthia needs medical care, she said. She's weak from isolation and a lack of proper treatment. Maria nodded. I can help, she said. I know her case. I can assist the doctors. Claire looked at Maria and smiled. You're more than a volunteer now, she said. You're a hero. Sam leaned forward. I'll stay on the case, he said. We need to make sure no one else was involved. We need to protect the evidence. Andrew entered the room. He looked at each of them in turn. I want to thank you all. You risked so much to help me and Cynthia. He walked to Maria and took her hand. Maria, I've set up a foundation in Cynthia's name to help patients whose records are manipulated. Maria squeezed his hand. That's wonderful, she said. Andrew turned to the group. This isn't over. You need to support Cynthia as she recovers. You need to help others who face the same danger. Dr. Patel nodded. I'll lead the medical team, she said. And Maria can train other volunteers to watch for these mistakes, Claire added. I'll manage the foundation's operations, Sam said. I'll keep investigating to make sure justice is served. Later, that evening, Andrew escorted Maria back to her apartment. The streetlights glowed softly. Maria felt tired but happy. Andrew stopped outside her door. You changed my life, he said simply. Maria smiled. You changed mine too, she said. Andrew looked at her for a moment, then nodded. Good night, Maria. She watched him walk away, his tall figure disappearing into the night. Maria unlocked her door and stepped inside. She set her keys on the table and sat down. She thought of Cynthia's safe in her home and of the foundation that would protect others. She felt proud and hopeful. Tomorrow, she would return to the hospital, but a different hospital, one dedicated to truth and care. She would wear her volunteer badge with new meaning. As she turned off the light and lay in bed, Maria closed her eyes. She thought of Andrew and Cynthia and of the long road ahead for them all. She whispered a promise to herself. She would never stop looking, never stop helping. Because one brave act could save a life and maybe many lives after that. With a feeling of calm and purpose, Maria drifted into sleep, ready for the new day. The morning sun streamed through the curtains of the Ross family home. Cynthia Ross lay in a soft bed, surrounded by warm blankets and pillows. She opened her eyes slowly and saw Andrew sitting beside her, reading a book. He looked up and smiled. When he saw her stirring, "Good morning," he said gently. Cynthia reached out and took his hand. "Good morning," she whispered. Her voice was stronger now, but still soft. She felt safe. Outside the window, Maria Johnson arrived in a simple car. She carried a fresh bouquet of flowers and a folder of volunteer schedules. She had slept only a few hours, but felt eager to begin the day's work. She stepped onto the porch and rang the doorbell. Andrew opened the door, brushing a strand of hair back from Cynthia's face. "Come in," he said. Maria walked inside, her eyes bright. She carried the flowers to Cynthia's side. "These are for you," she said. Cynthia smiled and reached up to touch one of the petals. "Thank you," she said. The flower's soft pink color lifted her spirits. Andrew poured coffee for Maria and tea for Cynthia. They sat together around a small table by the window. Dr. Patel arrived next, carrying medical charts and a gentle smile. She greeted them all and began to examine Cynthia's arm for the intravenous line. "Your strength is improving," she said to Cynthia, "but you will need rest and proper nutrition." Cynthia nodded. "I know," she said. "I want to get better." Maria had prepared a healthy breakfast with fruit, eggs, and whole grain toast. Cynthia ate slowly, savoring each bite. Andrew watched her, relief shining in his eyes. After breakfast, the group moved to a study in the house. Andrew had turned the room into a small office for the new foundation, the Cynthia Ross Truth Fund. On the large desk lay brochures, mission statements, and plans for their first community meeting. Maria felt a thrill as she took in the work laid out before her. Claire joined them with her laptop, ready to manage the foundation's operations. Sam Ellis, the private investigator, stood by a whiteboard covered in notes about patient rights and hospital accountability. "We have our first list of hospitals to contact," he said. "We'll offer training for volunteers and a hotline for suspicious cases." Andrew turned to Maria. "You will lead the volunteer training program," he said. Maria felt a mix of pride and responsibility. "I will," she said firmly. "We'll teach volunteers how to spot errors in records, how to ask the right questions," Dr. Patel added. "And I will provide the medical guidelines. We'll work together." Maria nodded. "We'll save lives," she said. Everyone agreed, their faces serious but filled with hope. That afternoon, Cynthia rested in her room while Andrew and Maria visited the hospital where Maria volunteered. The lobby looked the same as before: bright lights, comfortable chairs, and a reception desk. But now, Maria walked in with confidence. She wore a neat blazer over her volunteer uniform and carried her new foundation badge. At the desk, Nurse Patel greeted them both with a warm smile. "Welcome back," Patel said to Maria. "How is Mrs. Ross?" Maria smiled. "She's well. Thank you again for your help," Patel nodded. "I heard about the foundation." "Wonderful." Maria felt gratitude and shook Patel's hand. They toured the hospital's records area. Maria pointed out places where mistakes could happen: old filing systems, unclear labels, missing signatures. Dr. Patel explained new procedures to improve checks and balances. Hospital staff came by to ask questions and took copies of the foundation's brochure. Maria spoke to each person she met, sharing the story of Cynthia's rescue in simple words. Staff listened with interest, some shaking their heads at how easy it was for records to be altered. Maria felt hope grow in the room. Later, Andrew invited Maria back to his office. He offered her a comfortable chair and asked about her dreams. Maria spoke of returning to school to become a nurse full-time. "I want to help more patients," she said. Andrew leaned forward. "We will support you," he said. "The foundation will offer you a scholarship for nursing school. You deserve it." Maria's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," she said. "I will not let you down." Andrew smiled. "I know you won't." In the evening, they held the very first foundation meeting in a rented community hall. The room filled with volunteers, nurses, patient advocates, and some members of the local press. A banner behind the podium read, "Cynthia Ross Truth Fund, protecting patients, saving lives." Andrew welcomed everyone and shared the foundation's mission. Maria then took the stage and spoke in her clear, gentle voice. She told the story of how she found the error in Cynthia's file, how she warned Andrew, and how together they saved a life. The audience listened in silence, moved by her honesty and courage. After Maria spoke, Dr. Patel explained the medical side, how vital signs and proper reporting can save lives, and how volunteers can spot red flags. Sam Ellis talked about legal rights and how to report suspicious cases. Claire described the hotline and the online portal for reports. At the end, Andrew thanked everyone and invited them to a light reception. Maria stood at the front, accepting congratulations and words of gratitude. She felt proud and honored. That night, Andrew and Cynthia walked through their garden under the stars. Fireflies glowed around them, and the air smelled of jasmine. Cynthia leaned against Andrew's arm. "I feel so lucky," she said softly. Andrew kissed her forehead. "I will never take you for granted again," he said. He paused near a fountain where Maria had placed a small plaque, in gratitude to Maria Johnson, whose courage saved a life. Cynthia read the plaque out loud. "She saved my life," she whispered. The next morning, the media covered the foundation's launch. News stories told the tale of the brave volunteer, the concerned billionaire, and the lost wife found alive. Maria saw her name in headlines, but felt shy about her fame. She preferred to stay in the background. Focusing on training volunteers, Dr. Patel and Sam met with hospital boards, and Claire set up meetings with potential donors. The foundation grew quickly. Over the following weeks, Maria led training sessions in several hospitals. She taught volunteers to notice odd entries, missing signatures, or sudden changes in patient status. She shared tips on how to speak politely but firmly to staff, and when to escalate concerns. Volunteers practiced with mock files and role play. Many found it surprising how easy it was to learn these skills. Maria felt joy when volunteers thanked her, saying they felt more confident to help at home. Cynthia's health improved daily. She walked in the garden, laughed with Andrew, and even cooked a simple meal in the kitchen. Maria visited often, and they became close friends. Cynthia told Maria stories of her life before the accident, her love for painting, her dream of traveling to Italy. Maria listened, happy to learn more about the woman she helped save. One afternoon, Maria received a letter from a young man whose mother had nearly been declared dead by mistake. He thanked the foundation and said they had caught the error just in time. Maria felt tears of joy. She showed the letter to Andrew and Cynthia. They hugged her. "See?" Andrew said. "Lives are changing because of you," Maria smiled her, heart full. Months later, at the foundation's first anniversary, Cynthia stood at the podium beside Andrew and Maria. She shared her gratitude, describing how frightened and alone she felt in that dark room. She spoke of Maria's courage and how it brought her back to life. The audience gave her a standing ovation. Maria blushed but stood tall, proud of what they had built together as the event ended. Andrew and Maria walked outside. The night sky was bright with stars. Maria felt a sense of peace. She had begun as a volunteer, unsettled by a mistake and a file. Now she led a movement that protected patients everywhere. She turned to Andrew. "Thank you for trusting me," she said. Andrew smiled, his eyes warm. "Thank you for saving her," he said, gesturing towards Cynthia's house, "and for saving so many more." Maria nodded. She looked up at the sky. She thought of the journey that began with one word in a file and grew into a mission to protect lives. She felt humble and hopeful. She knew the work would never end, but she also knew they had set something precious in motion, a promise that every patient's life mattered. With that thought, Maria walked forward into the night, ready for whatever came next.